All right, so our webinar today is on eco-capitalism, a term that I kind of made up. I'm sure it's been used by hundreds of other people for similar or potentially different reasons. But I have with me my friend and colleague, Andy Lauer. I'll put up a picture here. Andy Lauer is the executive director of the Eleos Foundation, and I've been familiar with them for a year or so now, and I'm fascinated by the types of things they do, and I hope listeners will enjoy this presentation. I want to mention by way of housekeeping that if you have any questions, just write them into the sidebar on your left. Now, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Now, what I would like to do, Andy, you always say at the beginning of every presentation, there are disclaimers. Are there legal things that you want to get out of the road? Like that you're not soliciting for, whatever it is you normally say, because I want to give you the opportunity to say that.
Yes, thank you. So I think it is just worth saying at the beginning of every event that we do try just to be explicit to say that everything that we're sharing is for educational purposes. We are not going to be talking about any specific offerings, and we are deliberately and intentionally not focused on answering questions specific to any ongoing offerings, and this event is purely for educational purposes.
Very good. Now, I want to go back to this thing because, unfortunately, though I love this presentation platform, PresenterNet, there are certain limitations to it, and this is one, that it doesn't really support two presenters at the same time through the computer speakers, through the IP, as it were, Internet Protocol. So what we do is we have this dial-in, and this is the only way to get the audio. So if you dial in to that number and use that passcode, you will get the audio. But speaking of PresenterNet, that's a kind of a cool thing. Do you see that pink thing that I'm drawing there?
It looks lovely. I'm pleased you managed to get the two sides of the circle to connect. I'm impressed.
Yes. Well, I had my choice of several colors there, too. Okay. Well, here's what I would like to do to get started on this. I just want to make a couple of introductory comments. First of all, this is the concept, the tie-in of what you're about to hear Andy present about Eleos and its doings. They're both obvious and non-obvious elements of this, it seems to me, to what we try to do here at Two Green Energy. The obvious thing is sustainability. So obviously, eliminating poverty, creating jobs for the world's poor is a huge element of what we all mean by sustainability. The tie into renewable energy is less apparent, and what I want to do, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Andy, but I think in our prior discussions, what you've mentioned is that you haven't been exactly investing in renewable energy, but you could. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yeah, I think one of the things I think you talk about it in this slide. One of the things that I think that we often have in the West about extreme poverty is we have a very compartmentalized view, because that makes it easier for us to evaluate and easier for us to quote unquote be strategic, rather than having kind of a more realistic, holistic view. And so while we aren't focused, we've been leading with kind of health and education as opposed to renewable energy. One of the things that we've been learning over the last few years is the importance of having a holistic approach. So even though we have opportunities that are focusing primarily on health and education, there's a huge impact they have with regard to renewable energy.
Okay. Well, very good. And I'd like to make a couple of comments on that, if I may. Let me just go back to this number. Somebody wrote in that they didn't fully get this number, so we'll just take another few seconds to allow people to write this down. But anyway, the way I see the tie-in on this thing is kind of through multiple ways. Number one is that we are aware that, for instance, we in the United States and, say, Canada, we use more energy per capita than anybody else in the known universe. So, and that's a bad thing. We need to be better about that in terms of not only renewables, but efficiency, conservation, and so forth. Having said that, the dirtiness of the energy per capita in nowhere is it any worse than in some of these rural areas of, say, Africa, in which anybody who wants light or heat essentially is burning hydrocarbons. So I would argue that an investment, if it comes to, for instance, enabling these people to build their own micro wind turbines or solar panels or what have you, would certainly ameliorate that condition. In other words, there'd be less burning hydrocarbons. It will also enable this entire region of the developing world to leapfrog, just like, for instance, we're all thrilled about the fact that for instance, Africa, just to use that as that continent, never really had to install a landline telephony infrastructure. They leapfrogged directly into cell phones, and that saved everybody a fortune, which, of course, is desperately needed. And lastly, an issue with respect to just to stay with Africa, is to the degree that there isn't electrification, it puts a real damper on the educational process. So people need to burn fires if they're going to read at night. They don't have access to online education, and educated people are much more likely to be better at family control, family planning, and therefore to do a better job with the population. So there are numerous reasons that I would love to see you folks at Eleos get more into this area. But enough about me. What I want to do now is just kind of turn this over to you and let you just do your normal presentation, which I've seen before, and I think this is a really good, solid exposition. You want to just get right into this?
Sure. And hopefully it can kind of all come together. So, I joined Eleos 3.5 years ago. We are a California-based private foundation. Our mission statement is capitalizing capital in the fight to eradicate extreme poverty, passion, and effectiveness. So everything that we're doing is in the fight to eradicate extreme poverty. And the way that we do that is to try to open up and try to be catalytic with pipelines of capital. So we invest in early-stage entrepreneurs that are pioneering high-impact market-based solutions that eradicate extreme poverty. And our core DNA is kind of 3 E's of educate, empower, and engage. We're looking to educate ourselves and our community of investors. We're looking to empower the investors as well as empowering the entrepreneurs. And then we're looking to find ways where we can all be engaged in the process as we all seek to be catalytic. So that's kind of how we do it. So our model has been kind of developing and evolving over the last little while. Maybe if we go on to the next slide, we can talk through kind of the gap that we see in the early stage ecosystems. So we see that this. We believe in market-based solutions. We believe that they are one of the most effective ways to eradicate extreme poverty, and we see there's this large gap at the early stage impact investing space where you have great ideas coming out of business plans or incubators or accelerators, and then you have a minimum of a $1 million investment, which is where most of the investors are grouped because obviously risks are less, revenues are there, and there's more of an established track record. And we see there's this huge gap and this chasm that entrepreneurs need to be empowered to be able to cross so they can actually be long-term sustainable. So the way that we do our work is we have these 2 areas on the left-hand side that you can see on the chart of solo investments. We use our capital from the Eleos Foundation to make early-stage grants or to make seed investments, and that's typically in the range of $20,000 to $50,000. That gives us a chance to get to know the entrepreneur, gives us a chance to work alongside them and to be able to establish the relationship with them. And then we bring in the other side of the document, which is the co-investment opportunities, and we seek to be a key partner bringing in A-round investments, we've done bridge rounds, and we're about to do a number of B rounds, all with the hope of getting entrepreneurs with enough capital, both financial capital as well as intellectual capital, for them to be able to be ready to receive the $1 million minimum investment. And we see we are able to have this unique role where we have the solo investments, and then we bring in other co-investors, which provide more volume of dollars, as well as providing more investors the opportunity to have the experiences of working alongside us and working alongside the entrepreneurs. Okay. So that's kind of how we view the ecosystem and kind of our role within that. Maybe if we go to the next slide.
Yes. Before we do, we're going to get into some case studies here. Andy, I can hear you fairly well, but not perfectly. If there's anything you can do.
Is that clearer now? I apologize.
I think so, yes. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's good. Here we go. So here we got some.
Great. So these are 5 deals from our Kenya fund that kind of explain where different entrepreneurs are on our spectrum and kind of where we see the gap. So Zana A is a sanitary pad manufacturing company. One of the reasons that girls often drop out of schools is a lack of availability to be able to have feminine hygiene products. So they're looking to explore if they can be developing in-country manufacturing of sanitary pads. We gave a grant to them to be able to explore that. Another one is Copia, which is looking to provide more opportunities for choice, exactly as Craig was saying at the beginning, an opportunity for people in rural communities to be able to look at a catalog, kind of like a Sears catalog model in the US, and be able to then afford products that they wouldn't normally have access to in their peri-urban communities. Pender Health is looking to maximize and use new technologies for cancer screening and other basic health product services. So they are looking to work in small areas and just do a small investment with our money. And there are 2 others that are in the fund that are kind of later stage investments. Digital Data Divide, which is focusing on using outsourced data entry job opportunities to be able to work in the slums. So we have people from the rural of the slum communities who are able to have opportunities to earn a wage, as well as having the opportunity to be able to complete college education. And then Sanergy, which is worth talking about a bit more, which is focusing on healthcare in the slum communities of Kenya. The way that they see a massive gap is the lack of access to sanitation that is experienced by the vast majority of people living in the slums. So we invested some money when they had 2 toilets. They've now rolled out their 75th toilet, and what they do is they build the equivalent of a porta potty in a slum community. They then use a franchise model so that franchise entrepreneurs are able to use a payment system with Sanergy to be able to have the toilets in their community. And then Sanergy twice a day come through and take the human waste away, and the money is looking to be made in using the human waste as a fertilizer and looking for other byproducts based on the energy that can be produced from that. And so we had a number of investors invested alongside us in that deal, and again, we've got an ongoing relationship with them.
That's fantastic. I think we have a slide on each of these things if you want to just kind of take me through this. This is Sanergy. This is the toilets with the.
Yes, you can.
Go ahead.
Great. So if you click on the bullet points as well, then basically you can see the porta potties that are there, clean toilets where people can have a reliable location where they can always be able to go and have access to a toilet. They pay for that service, and then the human waste is taken away twice a day and then used and converted into a fertilizer. So not only does this address health issues, but also has job creation opportunities as well. And if they can continue on the growth path that they're on, then we see this as kind of being a potential game changer to be rolled out across different high-density population areas across Africa. And then, like I said, they're currently exploring different opportunities for energy byproducts based on the volume of waste that they have and that they're utilizing.
It's an incredible concept. How much total capital do you have wrapped up in this so far?
So we put in about $50,000 of our money, and then we had other investors that came in, making it up to around $400,000. They're looking to do another round of funding, of which we'll be a part of it. And so they've done very well at receiving lots of grants, and they were also very good at winning business prize competitions, which gave them some runway capital. But we really wanted to encourage them to use investment capital, and we've kind of done as a convertible note, which gives them opportunities to kind of explore what makes sense as they develop new capital needs in the future.
I see. I noticed there's a lot of sophistication, not only in the way in which these projects are vetted, but in the kind of financial underpinnings of these things. You guys didn't just fall off the turnip truck when it comes to, convertible notes and so forth. There's a lot of sophistication in this, it seems.
Yeah, so Sanergy provided a great example for that, where they were receiving grant capital, and the traditional aid model would have been just to carry on getting more grant capital. We worked alongside them and said, hey, we're an entrepreneur-friendly investor. Why don't we actually see what you can do to get investment capital? And then, like I said at the beginning, the idea is to get people like them ready for the $1 million minimum investment. So if we can do a high level of due diligence and investment rigor of analysis, then we think it gives them a much more of a fighting chance to be able to attract that $1 million minimum investment, which is where the real game-changing growth capital comes in. And so we do a lot of work for the size of dollars that we're deploying and for the stage that we're deploying. We do a lot of work, but we think that's going to be helpful for the entrepreneurs in the long term, and then other investors are more than welcome to have access to all of our due diligence if they want to invest later on.
That's great. Here, this is Digital Divide. This is another kind of late-stage piece, I seem to recall.
Yes, so this is another one where we put in our money. This is a job-creating opportunity. They use outsource work, data entry, so Ancestry.com or other clients like that that require data input. And alongside that, the young adults that are given the job opportunities are also given the opportunities to complete their college education. And the hope would be that there's a higher education, or specifically for the workers that work at DDD, but then there's a knock-on effect where they can have a bigger impact within their communities and really be seen as a leader. And I was honored to be able to go to see some of the families in the slums and to walk around with these local rock stars who have a long-term sustainable job, who are gaining skills, and have a huge opportunity to really be catalytic into the future. So that's, again, using technology, not so much focused on the green technology, but using modern technology to be able to use that for a positive social change.
Yes, it's fantastic. I think I harken back to what we said at the beginning of this thing. In other words, you're killing so many birds with one stone on this thing. Not only is it poverty eradication, but it's role. These people become role models. The education, the fact that people are achieving higher education is so beneficial in so many ways. It's really incredible.
Thank you, and I agree. That's kind of the approach that we're trying to have, and that's kind of when we go back to the DNA of who we are as an organization, is that we really want to be empowering. And I think that so much in the impact investing space is focusing on just the end goals rather than the importance of the journey to get there. Respect for dignity and empowerment are key core values for us at the Eleos Foundation. And even though that may mean that the journey takes slightly longer, we believe the long-term impact will be much higher and much deeper. And so Pender Health is again one of the groups that's using modern technology. They've been working in various different ways to be able to do cervical cancer screening and really see kind of a gap and a need, not just on the immediate healthcare needs, but also for preventive healthcare. And they're really focused on making sure that there's a customer care experience. That means they have steady revenues coming in. They're real early stage. We've been encouraging them just to focus on one clinic to be able to get that one clinic to be more effective. And then when they've got that done, then they can actually roll that out over a number of clinics. But rather than looking to get to scale too quick, we're really encouraging them that we're going to be patient with them, capital-wise, and then working alongside them to see what they can do to be able to move forward.
Yes. Well, I'm reminded of the Tarimake Foundation, and I write about this all the time. These are people, friends of mine, who function in near Cumaná in kind of eastern Venezuela, largely around women's health. What they say is a couple of things. Number one, investing in women, and I don't know whether you agree with this. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. If you disagree, that's completely fine. But what they say is investing in women is actually much more efficacious than investing in men. When you invest in men, you wind up with beer and motorcycles, which is, of course, a kind of unfair generality, but that's what they say to make the point. When you invest in women, you wind up with educated women who are taking better care of smaller, better planned families. And so from the standpoint of world health, of world population, it makes an awful lot of sense to invest in women. I don't know whether you would agree or not.
Yeah, I would agree to a large extent. I think one of the things that's definitely true in the developing world, or definitely true across the world, but especially magnified in the developing world, is the importance of the role that women have within the communities. I'm hesitant to be as damning on men because I think one of the challenges, for example, in microfinance is because it's been so focused on women that you're actually leaving 50% of the population behind. Whereas I think if we can actually say what are women's issues, quote unquote, what are women's needs, what are women's opportunities, which is something like Pender Health does, then you can be empowering women. I was able to go, for example, to see a factory that's based around the corner from Pender Health, where the factory owner wants the women to be working as much as they can so that he can make more money. The women obviously want to be working as much as they can so they can make more money to provide for their families. And therefore, how do we empower that process to be more effective while respecting dignity? So I agree with you about the need to be really focused on empowering women, and women are the key for society to be successful.
Okay, cool. All right, here's another one.
So this is Copia, which is the catalog model that we've said, and again, this kind of links in with some of the opportunities that we were discussing right at the beginning of the call. They provide consumer goods and provide opportunities for goods to be available at the base of the pyramid. Some of them are as basic products as toothpaste. Others of them provide opportunities for new lighting systems. I was just in discussion 2 days ago with a group that's looking to see if Copia could distribute their lights, which are solar panelled lights, with an opportunity to charge up phones. And they were looking to see how do we get that into the peri-urban communities, the rural communities that don't have access to that because it's just not affordable for them to be able to get there. So if there's a new way that we can think through distribution and delivery, then Copia is keen to explore that, which gives an opportunity to have these green technologies in time be available in communities that at the moment can't afford and don't have access to them.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Now, we have a question from a listener, Stephen Andrews, who writes in, I have a project in my country, Guatemala. How can I get in contact to find out about your project involvement, grants, etc.? Now, I seem to recall that you're not in every country. Is that correct?
Correct. So our model at the moment is we have the work that we've mentioned. These ones that we've been talking about are based in Kenya. So we're looking to kind of increase the work there. We started off working in India. We've got a couple of projects that we've been working on in India. And then we've also got work that we've been rolling out in Latin America. In Liberia. That being said, we are looking to roll out a new fund in Latin America that's focused specifically on the empowerment of women and girls. And so we are working out how specific that geography is. And we're about to launch 2 weeks' time a partnership with a group called Agora Partnerships. And so what we're looking to do is have a collaboration with them. They are an accelerator and an incubator. And the idea is that they will be able to work with entrepreneurs to give us more opportunity for us to be able to invest in those entrepreneurs. So if you're working specifically in Guatemala, then I'm very keen to have that conversation. And I think, I don't know if it's up on the last slide, but the email address for the Eleos Foundation is there.
Yes, it is.
And we're happy to have more conversations. And we've already looked at a couple of opportunities in Guatemala and are looking for more in Latin America.
What a wonderful coincidence. Thank you, Stephen, for writing that in. And yes, your email is I believe, the concluding slide there. And obviously, if that fails for any reason, just you can always reach Andy through Two Green Energy. If you just hit contact, I'll connect you with him immediately. And here's another case study.
Yes, so this is the one which I mentioned briefly. Again, trying to work out ways where understanding the cycle of poverty. So lots of challenges, as we mentioned, about empowering of girls means that girls miss 4 days of school a month, and that we believe leads to a higher incidence of dropout eventually from schools. So how can you provide opportunities for women can be empowered, both from the feminine hygiene product side of things, as well as for the need for women to be able to have more opportunity with regard to their own sexual choices and to be able to make different choices than their predecessors have made and the generations before. So they're looking at seeing if there's a way that they can manufacture and distribute sanitary pads. This is a real early opportunity. We're still looking to see what the market data is, but we're excited to see if they can crack this nut, and we think that provides a unique opportunity in part for girls to be able to complete their education. So we'll see how that one works out in due course.
It's brilliant. Okay. Another one?
Oh, great. I didn't realize I'd put so many case study examples in. This is again, a great technology example. This is eHealthPoint. This is the first investment that we made in India a couple of years ago, and that qualifies as a PRI investment for those investors who are interested in making program-related investments.
What is that? Say that again, please.
So program-related investments, PRIs, so that means that an investment needs to be seen as having a social impact first. Foundations need to spend down at least 5% of their endowment each year, and they can either do that by doing grants or they can actually do that as these investments with the program-related investments. So it's a huge untapped potential for those that have foundations to be able to make those investments and for them to be able to count against the spend down of the foundation.
Okay.
PRI. So the reason I mentioned that is it's quite clear that there's an opportunity to be able to influence it. And HealthPoint was the one that I mentioned that has the safe drinking water in rural communities in India. And then this is another group that we've been working with, again in India, that's focusing specifically on education opportunities, looking to see if we can have an impact on the preschool education, and to see if they can get scalable so that there's a more of a fighting chance for rural kids to be able to get to school at the starting line rather than already being behind before they've even reached elementary school age. And so we're working with them to develop their model and to develop their chain of schools that they currently have and to expand it further.
That's terrific. Very good.
And then this is a group in Liberia that we mentioned, so Liberty and Justice, Africa's first fair trade certified garment manufacturer. They have a unique structure where the workers have an ownership stake in the company, and again, focusing on opportunities for women, focusing on the fact there's opportunities to distribute to Western markets. There's a trade agreement called AGOA, African Growth and Opportunities Act, which provides for tax-free imports from certain African countries. Liberty and Justice were instrumental in ensuring that there was a visa for Liberia to be able to take advantage of that. And on Monday, I'll be at a reception with President Sirleaf, Africa's first female head of state, who has done an incredible job of helping to turn around the country and to be able to see new opportunities for business growth in Africa. Last time I spoke with her, she was very thankful and very optimistic about the work of Liberty and Justice. We are just hoping that Liberty and Justice can, and working hard to make sure that Liberty and Justice can get through the challenges of not only starting up a startup organization, but also really starting up a new sector within the country. And in order to do that, they've expanded into Ghana, where there's more opportunities to get to volume quicker. So still working within Liberia, but also having a parallel operation in Ghana that can lead to hopefully quicker and greater growth.
It's fantastic. You know, I wake up every morning looking forward to checking my email, knowing that there are going to be various business opportunities and so forth, but there are also going to be people that offer absolutely no opportunity for me to make a buck, but I'm just going to be helping somebody, you know, write a college paper or, you know, connect with a potential job opportunity or whatever. This must be fantastically rewarding for you, Andy. The work that you're doing is affecting millions and millions of people. You must be a pretty happy guy.
It's incredibly rewarding. We're trying to always be kind of honest with where we're at. You know, these are early stage opportunities. We're still looking to develop our first exit from it. We really believe in the path that we're on. Whether or not we're going to be instrumental on that or the other copycats that follow us, we'll wait and see. Obviously, we're confident and working hard to ensure that we have success. And yeah, it is very uplifting. It gives you motivation to get up every day to be a part of it. But we're really learning. You know, the example I use is a lady called Rebecca Drake that works in a factory in Liberia. A year ago, she came into the office of the CEO, Chid Liberty, and said that she wanted to change her name. She'd been married off when she was a teenager. She had 4 kids. She came in and she said, you know, I want to be known as Rebecca Drake, which is my true name, which is my identity, and I want to be able to have my identity back and my dignity. And that's why we're here in terms of her being able to have a stable job has provided her with an opportunity to think through life differently, to be free from the challenges of extreme poverty. And so with that comes these amazing success stories, with that comes the amazing burden and responsibility to making sure that we are providing the best opportunities and empowering Rebecca Drake however we can. And also kind of trying to correct some of the balances. I've learned more from Rebecca Drake than she'll ever learn from me.
Wow.
And so, you know, what can we be doing to make sure that we are an equitable community of learning and really be sharing kind of some of the lessons that we're learning as we go along on this journey together.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Here's this slide on Agora.
Yes, so I mentioned that we're about to launch a partnership with Agora, so that's going to be launched in 2 weeks' time at SoCap, where we're going to be having a breakfast there, and we're excited to be able to work with them to try to see if we can get more effective partnerships with people like them to be able to see how can we find more entrepreneurs for us to be able to work with, and how can the entrepreneurs have access to capital, which we think we can bring to the table to be able to develop the model further. So that's going to be launched at SoCap, and more information is available upon request.
Yes, good, and we'll put that slide up in a sec.
So this gives another example. So we talked about the early stage deals that we do. That's the first thing that we do. Then we talked about the community of investors that we're working with. The third thing that Eleos does, we have a partnership with Sonnen Capital, and Sonnen advise us on how we manage our endowment, which is approximately $6 million, and that we're spending through. But 100% of our endowment is also being invested to have a social impact as well. It's financial first driven. It's not as direct and not as hands-on, obviously, as we are with the direct deals that we're doing. But the idea is that while we spend that down, the portfolio is able to provide financial returns as well as having a social impact. This article was written recently on August the 8th in the Private Wealth magazine, and that gives kind of an overview of our partnership and talks a little bit about the work of Sonnen Capital.
Yes. Do you know, a few Christmases ago, I'm going to say 5 or 6, my sister-in-law introduced me to Kiva, the micro lending thing.
Yep.
I don't know how many people do that, but that's an extremely popular thing, at least in the United States, isn't it? Andy, do you happen to know?
No, it's very popular, and so we've been working actually on a couple of the businesses, had conversation with Kiva, and Sanergy actually had a couple of their entrepreneurs that were posted online. And I don't know the exact time, but by the time I looked at it, which was a day after it had been posted, people had already invested in the entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. So Sanergy, the toilet manufacturing company, provided an opportunity through Kiva for Kiva to be able to find capital that they needed to be able to purchase and to be able to utilize the porta potty, and the capital was provided within a day. So I think Kiva has a great opportunity to have affordable investment opportunities for non-accredited investors, and the opportunity for people to be very hands-on in terms of knowing that their work is going to direct individual, or knowing that it's going into a collective group that is funding direct individuals. Yes. So we work with Kiva, and we're always keen to kind of encourage our entrepreneurs to develop and work with current models that are out there.
Okay, that's very good. All right.
So this just gives the next slide kind of the key one. I think this just kind of talks about some events that we've been doing, and we have a website, Catalyzing Capital, where we are putting these videos out. We also have an Eleos Vision channel on YouTube, and that has some of the videos of some of the entrepreneurs that we've been working with, as well as videos of historical archived events. I think the next slide kind of talks about the current series that we're doing, which is the Frontier of Impact Investing, or maybe it doesn't. We currently have an educational event, Frontier of Impact Investing. We're doing a road show. It's actually about to be put on the website today, and we have 5 events in October in various different U.S. cities featuring the work of Sanergy. So we've got an event in New York on Monday, then an event in San Francisco, Santa Barbara, LA, and then back over in Boston. So if anybody's interested in attending those events, we have specific details that we can send on. Either email us at info@theeleosfoundation.com or look at the website, the Eleos Foundation or Catalyzing Capital.
Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, I knew this was going to be a good conversation. I'm so glad we had the opportunity. Again, my hat's off to you and all the people at Eleos. You're doing fantastic work. I never miss an opportunity to pitch my my renewable energy thing. If you and the board, I know you're not the sole decision maker about who does what in terms of projects, but there are numerous extremely worthwhile, and I would think very good kind of fit projects associated with renewable energy and bringing clean energy to people to bring electrification to people for the first time in their lives, so that they can read after the sun goes down without burning down the forest. So that's some pretty worthwhile stuff too. I hope you will consider it. And I certainly thank you for being on the show today. This was magnificent. Anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, well, thank you. Thank you for having me. We're always considering new opportunities and trying to work out how best we can be as effective as we can in achieving our mission. So thank you for having me, and thank you for listening, and feel free to be in touch if there's other ways that we can be all working together.
Fantastic. Andy, thanks so much. Talk to you again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now.
Take care.
Thanks.